Our commencement speaker today is unquestionably one of the most influential artists of the 20th and 21st centuries. He has also spent a good deal of his early life in Seattle and has many ties. So he is very dear to the hearts of our community and of our university, and we are absolutely thrilled to have him with us here today. It's almost impossible to describe the breadth and depth of Quincy Jones' creative output over the past 6 decades. As a musician, composer, arranger, producer, and director, he has collaborated with nearly all the giants of jazz and popular music. Since the early 1950s, those who wanted musical magic for their record albums, their television shows, or their films had one name at the top of their list: Quincy Jones. He has worked with a seemingly endless parade of stars, including Louis Armstrong, Count Basie, Duke Ellington, Ray Charles, Frank Sinatra, Tony Bennett, Miles Davis, Aretha Franklin, Bob Dylan, Michael Jackson, Ice-T, and P. Diddy. And that's a very short list. And while he has become a legend himself, he has never stopped giving back to the community and the world around him. Mr. Jones has a long history of civil rights and humanitarian involvement, and he continues to help raise awareness and financial resources for a broad range of initiatives that better the lives of children and people worldwide. In recognition of Mr. Jones's amazing artistic achievements and his philanthropic efforts around the world, the University of Washington is today conferring upon him the honorary degree of Doctor of Arts. The honorary degree citation will be read by the chairman of the board, Stanley Baer. Would Mr. Jones and Mr. Baer please join me at the lectern?
As one who grew up in Seattle, Mr. Jones, I know you fully appreciate how sun-challenged this community can be, and recent commencements have been marked by torrential rainfall. Years ago at this university, I was taught that sound and light waves move forever through the universe. Whoever way upstairs is in charge of weather obviously appreciates you and your work. Thank you for bringing the sun. And now for the citation. Quincy Delight Jones, Jr. From humble roots, you have risen to the pinnacle of the music world. As musician, composer, arranger, producer, conductor, and humanitarian. From bebop to hip hop, from Dizzy Gillespie to Ice-T, your influence over 60 years across genres and artists has left an indelible mark on modern culture. Your brilliant light has been a genuine guiding force, shaping popular music that will be heard and felt worldwide for generations to come. Mr. Jones, you have written the soundtrack for a century. Born on the south side of Chicago during the Great Depression, you knew well the violence, hopelessness that can cripple a human spirit, but not your spirit. Yes, you experienced life's hardships, yet you endured to find yourself in Port Orchard, Washington. One night, a young boy sitting before an old upright piano in an empty hall. With those 88 keys, you began to unlock your destiny. Your path took you through Seattle and Garfield High School, where you became an accomplished trumpet player. By age 15, you had performed with Billie Holiday, big band arrangement, and been invited to join Lionel Hampton's band. You have collaborated with the giants of the 20th century jazz and popular music, from Count Basie, Duke Ellington, to Sinatra, Ray Charles, Michael Jackson. You produced the best-selling album of all time, Michael Jackson's Thriller, and the biggest selling single in the history of this planet, We Are the World. That recording raised $60 million to combat world hunger. You wrote the music for the landmark miniseries, Roots, and co-produced The Color Purple with Steven Spielberg. You have composed 34 major motion picture scores and received 7 Academy Award nominations. Your honors and awards include France's Commander of the Legion of Honor and an unprecedented 79 Grammy nominations, resulting in 27 Grammy Awards. At Mercury Records, you were the first person of African American descent to become vice president of a major record label. You were the first African American to serve as musical director, conductor, and executive producer of the Academy Awards. And you were the first African American composer to be embraced by the Hollywood film establishment. You have mentored your young artists, fused together diverse musical styles, and in that process, united the generations. Prejudice, with its many bitter faces, has never been a match for your creative fire and the sheer force of your brilliance and passion for life. You are a major supporter of Martin Luther King Jr.'s Operation Breadbasket, and you have continued to help others in need through numerous charitable organizations, including your own Quincy Jones Foundation, which offers children hope by connecting them with technology, education, culture, and music. Around this world, you are celebrated for your passionate devotion to humanitarian causes, for your wonderful gift of music, for opening doors that were once closed, and for building bridges where none before existed, for being a courageous and loving person, and for teaching us all to embrace the vibrant oneness of humanity. The University of Washington is proud to confer upon you the degree of Doctor of Arts, honoris causa. Congratulations, Doctor.
Thank you. What up, UW? Finally got here. President Emmerich, Regent Bauer, and members of the Board of Regents, faculty, academic, administrative leaders, alumni, proud parents, grandparents, brothers, sisters, friends, and members of the class of 2008. I'd like to congratulate all of you summa cum laudes, and in the words of that great philosopher, Bill Cosby, the other 70% of you, thank you, laudes. Before I tell you to go out and get a job, I beg you to learn to speak and write Mandarin, Arabic, and Spanish. And please go get that job. You know, every turtle in the world, you know, how it goes, would pimp slap one of his young if he came back home after graduation. I am truly pleased to be here today for this wonderful celebration and proud to receive this honor in my own hometown. Finally got to the UW. This city means so much to me, I can't tell you. Actually, I attended Seattle University for about 6 months before receiving a scholarship to the Schillinger House of Music in Boston, which is now the Berklee School of Music. But my brother Richard, who I'm very proud to say is now a federal judge, he graduated from UW. And Richard, and my beloved late stepbrother Wayman drove a garbage truck for Seattle University of Washington. Unfortunately, he was a bit of a closet kleptomaniac and used to steal things like 40 boxes of left shoes and hide them in the garbage truck. That was my baby. So my family's experience with higher education in this great city has been very unique and varied. Before you leave here today with diplomas in your hand, about to embark on this next phase of this serious journey in your life, exciting journey really, know that anything is possible. If you think that's just a commencement speech platitude, let me tell you just a little bit about my own improbable journey. It all began on the south side of Chicago, the biggest black ghetto in America, no matter what you hear about Harlem and Compton. In America during the Great Depression in the 30s with 5 million black people. My family was as broke as the 10 Commandments. In those days, Chicago was also the #1 spawning ground for the most notorious white and black gangsters in the country, including Al Capone and John Dillinger. All I ever saw were Tommy guns and stogies and piles of money. We didn't know what was going on. We didn't come out here till 10 years old. My biggest role models in those days were the Jones Boys, who were triple OGs, black gangsters. No relationship though. Although my father, who's a master carpenter, worked for them, they started the first black businesses, 5 and dime stores, which they used to refer to as the V's and X's in Roman numerals. They originated the numbers racket in the hood until the legendary mobster Sam Giancana, who originated his own personal version of the hostile takeover, not so gently persuaded him to get out of town and move to Mexico. So my father got the message and decided it was time for me and my brother to take a trip too. This was during the middle of World War II, 1943, and I was 10 years old. He took my brother Lloyd and I straight from the barber shop, and with no stopping at home to pick up our toys, into the first Trailway bus to the Northwest. Then we took an hour ride to Bremerton, Washington. An exclusive, you know that one? Any Bremerton people here? Good. The bus stop in Bremerton ended at the bottom of a 3-mile hill. From there, we transferred to the soles of our shoes for that extra 3 miles up the hill. My father worked as a master carpenter in the Bremerton Navy shipyard, but I was still convinced that being a thug was the way to go, because that's all I'd ever seen. We were the first black kids in town, and Chicago had provided us with all the training we needed to take over the... Lord knows we tried. One night we broke into an armory, which was also our recreation center, to steal some lemon meringue pie and ice cream. We stuffed ourselves with it. Then we had a little food fight. Afterwards, we split up and individually did our thing. I broke into the administration room and opened the door, and over there in the dark, I spotted a little spinet piano. I was about to close the door, but thank God, and thank Blink, I didn't, and I slowly walked back over and stared at that piano, and I let my fingers slowly slide down to touch that piano. This was the moment of truth for me. Every cell, every bone in my body knew that in a heartbeat, that music would be my entire life forever. Food and water would feed my soul, but music would nourish my mind and soul. In contrast to Chicago, where I didn't see any white people, or many, I learned my lesson in the Northwest on judging people one-on-one, and it helped me break down any preconceived ideas about race. Because one day, a little kid named Robin Fields came to see me at Robert E. Kuntz Junior High School, where they had 2,800 white kids and 31 black kids, and said, I'd like to be your campaign manager and run you for Boys Club president. Right, I said. You must be out of your mind, man. He wasn't, and I won. So, my family had moved to Seattle by then, so I had to get up at 5:30 every morning to take 2 buses and the Puget Sound ferry, the Kalakala, that beautiful little silver ship, to Bremerton. It was an hour-and-a-half commute each way, but it was really worth it. And one of the finest traits of the class of 2008, millennials all over the world, is the belief that the color of one's skin does not matter. People are perceived as just people and are inspired by multicultural role models. Way back in the day in Seattle, that wasn't so. My best friend, Ray Charles, we met in 1947. He was 16, I was 14, but he seemed like he was 100 years older than me. He had 2 suits, his own apartment. I was living at home, 2 girlfriends, and I dreamed about being Ray Charles. He was a role model at a time when I had very few. There was no black literature available, no TV. The armed forces weren't integrated. On radio, there was only Rochester and Beulah. We knew Amos and Andy were white, so I'd make the Long Range and the Shadow black in my imagination. It's like we didn't exist. It's a strange feeling. And he understood the world in ways I didn't. We learned lots of lessons together, but most importantly, learning, and we used to recite it to each other every day, not one drop of my self-worth depends on your acceptance of me. We had to do that to survive. Some of you in this graduating class may be thinking, my education is finally over. It's true, your formal education may be over, but that doesn't mean you should stop learning, and you won't. Always strive to continue educating yourself. Train your mind to stay curious and hungry all the time. Make that a key part of your life's journey. You know that. But learning soulless facts and figures and information alone does not equate with learning unless you plan to go on Jeopardy. Alan Kay, which Mr. Gates, everybody knows, is our Einstein in this high-tech business. I met him 30 years ago. It's the genius responsible for inventing the prototypes of Mac 1 and Mac 2, the laptop, overlapping windows, icons, etc. Is one of the godfathers of the internet, and he taught me so much. He said it best. Point of view is worth 80 IQ points. It's the gaining of perspectives. The dictionary is the only place where success precedes work, and that's alphabetical. We all have to struggle and fail before we could succeed. And sometimes struggle can be heartbreaking, but we still must always, always treasure our mistakes. Because at some point, all of our various mistakes metamorphosize into something called experience. It's a funny thing. And don't be afraid to take a chance. You can't get an A if you're afraid of getting an F. Go for it. The world is more receptive to new and innovative ideas now than ever. So don't let the brain Nazis tell you there's only one way to do things. Go your own way and don't take any stuff from anybody. I have a dear friend named Dennis Washington. He was a tall, good-looking, white, but grew up poor and raggedy just like I did. We met when we were 10 years old, sitting up our shoe shine stands at the Bremerton Y, right next to the ferry dock. To hustle cash back then. Today, he's the largest copper mine owner, Anaconda Mines, railroad magnate in America, and one of his 380 companies built the rover and the Phoenix that landed on Mars. I was just with him at Colin Powell the day before yesterday in Vancouver. He sent one of his 900 planes down. He's also building 5 dams in China at $5 billion apiece. Then this is still the same dude that I met when I was a kid, and we hang all the time. His philosophy is very simple. Set goals that you can reach. If you're passionate about what you do, you will find the success beyond your dreams. The passion is the most important. No matter what your field of endeavor, success can be a funny thing. When I was 13, hanging backstage at the old Palomar Theater, I don't know whether that's still around, playing hooky, unfortunately, the great jazz musician and big band leader, Count Basie, sat me down one day and said, "Youngblood, it's all about the hills and valleys. If you let God do his job, anyone can handle the hills, the metaphor for success. But handling the valleys when you're down and out, that's the serious challenge. That's when you find out what you're made out of, because the true you comes out. Even with success, always try to stay humble. People get drunk or arrogant with power. I don't want to mention names, but I know thousands of them. If you think it's all about you, guess again. It's all about cause and manifestation. Cause is God's job, and manifestation is ours. We're only a terminal for a higher power, which I believe in the bottom of my heart, and if you accept that concept, you will be creative all of your life. No limits. If you're also fortunate enough to make a lot of money, beware of that strain of virus known as affluenza. Dangerous. Today is probably more dizzying and crippling than poverty is. Affluenza. Stay away from it. Inoculate yourself against it by always approaching your task with humility and treat your success with grace. In addition to your gifts, that's what keeps you going forever. Bono interviewed me. I don't know whether you saw that Vanity Fair issue that Bono edited with all the Annie Leibovitz pictures. But we've been brothers for about 20-some years. And he asked me to do the last page, the Proust questionnaire. And one of the questions was, what is your greatest fear? I answered, of becoming a grown-up. I want to do that. To the question, who would you like to come back as? I answered, one of my daughter's dogs. Chronologically, however, I turned 75 years old a few months ago, and I am not planning to slow down. Not a chance. And contrary to popular opinion, that's when I've heard, the good news is that once you get over the hill, that's when you really pick up speed. The bad news is what that beloved friend, comedian George Byrne, once told me, that sex after 90 is like shooting pool with a rope. But I'm also told that nanotechnology and the genome breakthrough, with those elements, you Gen Yers could live to be 150 years if you want. Plus, the United States would be out of Iraq by then. I've been blessed to have many, many dear friends from Seattle. Graduated from Garfield with this man, Gerald Allison. He was a distinguished UW School of Architecture graduate whom I met when we were students. He's also the gifted architect who had designed my house in Los Angeles and half of every building in the world, the hotels in the world. I've met so many dedicated people who are making this world a better place. As a way of shining a light on their achievements, they've inspired us to present an annual Q Prize. It's a joint initiative between my foundation and Harvard University School of Public Health. The Q Prize is given annually to the person who has done the most, in our opinion, for peace. Last year's recipient was a man called Scott Neeson, who's from Scotland and came to America to become executive vice president of Fox movies, pictures like the Titanic, etc. But when he saw what was happening in the garbage dumps, etc., in Cambodia and happening over there, he left this cushy job, all the private planes and everything, to run one of the hospitals over there that my foundation has been involved in building in the poorest sections of Cambodia and Angkor Wat. Scott is a shining example of the belief that you make a living with what you get and you make a life with what you give. Make caring about others an important part of your journey. Young people think more like that every day, and it makes me very proud of you. The Nobel doctors in Sweden told me that the key to life is love, live, laugh, and give. And if you got dark thoughts, you're going to get sick. Music, I've found over the years, is a powerful, powerful weapon and one of the most powerful cradles of spirituality that you will ever find in this universe. You can't see it, you can't touch it, you can't taste it, you can't smell it, but Lord knows you can feel it. It can lift you up and it can fill you up. Music is the only thing that affects the left and right brain simultaneously. That's why it has so much power. And along with mathematics, it's probably the only other absolute. It's part of our lifeblood. It's like water. I dare you for us to stop the music for 2 months for the world. None of us could handle it. It's a healing force that strengthens and soothes your soul. The entire world in the last 90+ years has accepted our music as their Esperanto. It walked right by kabuki, bagpipes, Viennese waltzes, and German lieder, and adopted our music, American music, jazz and blues, as the music that most expresses their souls. And I've traveled the world 3 times in the last year and a half. I've been doing it for 54 years. But our own music, the full spectrum of our indigenous music, the global gumbo that we invented, is less appreciated and understood in its own birthplace than anywhere else in the world. In a way, it's almost treated like a disposable culture. Answer this: how many rappers, and I know all of them, today know who Duke Ellington and Charlie Parker is? And that's a shame. So I'm begging each and every one of you out there in your other missions in life to become a foot soldier. Enlist in an unnamed movement with us all that helps us understand and support the entire spectrum of America's music. It's built on sociology. I deeply appreciate 50 Cent. Tupac, my daughter was engaged to him, died in her arms. Amy Winehouse, Usher, Alicia Keys, will.i.am, Fergie, all the bling, 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 and Benjamins. And I've mentored many of today's artists. But as much as I love hip hop, I'm not even thinking about giving up Herbie Hancock or John Coltrane or Miles Davis or Charlie Parker or Duke Ellington, Dizzy Gillespie, Count Basie, Louis Armstrong, Ella Fitzgerald, Sarah Vaughan, Ray Charles, Aretha, on and on. I want the whole 9 yards. It's all part of us, of gospel, blues, jazz, and everything else. Ask Mick Jagger. I met Mick Jagger in 1961. Made $512 million last year. He's almost my age. I want all of it, the whole family of our beautiful music. We must never, 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 ever forget that jazz is the classical music of pop music, and always will be. It's the best balance there is between soul and science. It eats everything in its past, and the essence of freedom and liberation. From Russia, Voice of America, all those shows we used to do, everybody listened to that message very deeply. I promise you, that in less than 20 or 30 years, our A, B, C, D, and E, Armstrong, Bird, Coltrane, Dizzy, and Ellington will be the 3 Bs, Brahms, Beethoven, and Bach of America. I promise you. The Russians teach Rimsky-Korsakov, Tchaikovsky, and Stravinsky all the way from the 2nd grade to college. It's the same in Germany, teaching the 3 Bs in our music too. Here we are today celebrating academic achievement, but we can't even get music education in our own high schools. And our culture is suffering from it. I see it every day and it hurts me. We're the only country in the world that doesn't have a minister of culture. My number one dream for us and my priority, the top of my list, I spoke with Colin Powell about it 2 days ago, how do I get it done, is for America to have a Secretary of the Arts. We deserve to have it. You know, everybody in the world copies our music. Because I'm idealistic enough to believe that if we put more emphasis on our culture, our gift to the world, students would understand where they stand in the world. And I had my assistant the other day check out how many incidents we've had like Columbine. It turned out to be 89 similar documented incidents. These are people that don't know where they stand in the world. My baby girl, Oprah Winfrey, saw a TV show where they asked a high school graduate, what was the capital of Chicago? How would you answer that? The kid said Dallas. Now that's scary. Jay Leno's, you've seen Jay Leno's interviews with people on the street who can't find New York State or even find America on the map. It's pitiful. It's funny in the moment, it makes us laugh, but in the long run, the joke is on us because our culture has been dumbed down in a sense, because we don't travel. I beg you, get over there, you know. Many of you, for the first time, are inspired by this year's presidential race, and I thank you for that. Thank you from the bottom of my heart. That's fantastic. Stay involved, pay attention, you know. Be critical, be praise, do everything you feel. You are forced to be reckoned with. Use your clout, pressure elected officials to upgrade our educational system on the other level that's not up to the standards of this school. Taking full advantage of our innate intelligence improves our culture and our lives. Let me offer you another challenge by echoing the brilliant historian David McCullough. His challenge when he spoke to the graduating class at Boston College last month, quote, please, please do what you can to cure the verbal virus that seems increasingly rampant among your generation. Talking about the relentless, wearisome use of the words, and I'm a bebopper, so you know we came from there too. The use of the words like, and you know, and awesome, and actually, listen to yourselves as you speak. You know, you're supposed to be quadrilingual, especially as university graduates. Just imagine in his inaugural address, John F. Kennedy, if he had said, ask not what your country can, you know, do for you, but what you can like, do for the country, actually. Please. Other than in foreign policy, Americans are isolationists, and it's a fact. 11% of us have passports and only 6% use them. 25% of Congress and the Senate have it, but only 12.5% use them. The nature of the world will be determined by sociability and connectivity with MySpace, LinkedIn, and the rest. But there's no substitute for seeing the world firsthand. 7% of UW's student body are from countries outside of the United States. Now that you've interacted with people from other cultures, expand your horizons, experience the world. Jamaica, South Beach, and Bahamas don't count. Get over there and see what's happening. Go to Croatia, go to Africa. What I'm trying to say is you've got to go to know. A caring person and a mentor from way back in the day, this great jazz saxophone player, Ben Webster, gave me wise advice when I began traveling in 1953. He said, when you travel, young blood, you find the soul of a country is in their food, their music, and their language. So eat the food the people eat, listen to the music they listen to, and learn 30 to 40 words of every language. I took his advice to heart, and it's been my credo ever since I was a young man. Serbo-Croatian, Farsi, Turkish, Swedish, French. I'm studying Mandarin and Arabic now, trying to write and read, doing my best. But don't drag our culture into anyone else's. That should be the new American way, not the way my generation or the baby boomers did it. Besides, they've already taken whatever they love, like the music. Make people all over the world your brothers and sisters. It's that time, baby. Help them get on their feet. We will not have 12-year-old kids who've given up on life and are ready to be suicide bombers instead of having hope and love in their eyes. I saw it the first time in Tunisia in 1953, a little girl in the rain with her hand out. She said, "Mister." I'd never seen that before, begging. Her left hand was behind her back. We later found out she went around the alley, gave the money to two grown-up men. We found out that her uncle had her left hand cut off so she could be a better beggar. And I've been hooked ever since then. It's beautiful seeing all of you out there today. And you give me much more hope than I can ever give you, and let me be myself, because you let me be myself, and I thank you for that. I'd like to respectfully and humbly ask you to do something that will mean a lot to me. I'd like you to give yourself the biggest round of applause that you've ever given in your life for the lives you've lived. Come on, give it up, you deserve it. You make a difference in this world. You get the props. You're going out there now. It's for you. Each and every one of you are the future. Don't ever forget it. Sometimes in life, and the iPod and the cell phone and the PC and the news begins to seem like too much, we should all try to take a little moment to let the soul catch up with the body and chill a little bit. Go out and find a song you love, a poem that touches your heart. Take the time to let the whisper of God's voice come into your mind. Every day that you wake up and your elbows don't touch wood should be the only reason you need to be happy. At 75, you'll get it. If we all make regular deposits into our emotional bank accounts with courtesy, with kindness, honesty, and honest to each other, then the account is high and the communication is easy. But when those things are missing and the account becomes overdrawn, that's when negativity sets in. So I'd like to ask you a favor, big favor. Would you please stand up? The students, please stand up. And reach out and hold each other's hand, please. I hear some music. And if you will, please repeat these words after me. On this day, I can't hear you. Hello. I will mend the quarrel. I will search out a forgotten friend. Gotta make some more noise, I can't hear you. Yeah. I will dismiss the suspicion and replace it with the trust. I would rather say I'm sorry I did than I wish I had. I will write a letter, an email, or a text to someone who I miss. I will encourage a young person who has lost faith and hope. I will keep a promise. I will forget an old grudge. I will fight for a principle. I will express my gratitude to God every day. I will tell someone I love them and tell them again and again and again and again and again and again. Thank you. And I just want to say, in closing, my wish is that we will all walk out of here and smell a brand new flavor of air. Let our minds open up. It's a brand new day for you all. You've done the work, this stage. There's a beautiful ancient expression I heard in Egypt 50 years ago, bujudak, or in the plural, bujudakam. It's an ancient expression of respect. Bujudakam, which means in your presence, the reflection on you, of you on me makes me feel like a better person. Your light gives me light. So I say to you, Bujudakam. And in closing, I want you all to remember to observe it, figure it out, put it to the soul of the science test, then say to yourselves, I can do that. I know I can do that. I'm going to do that. If you can see it, you can be it. So when it rains, get wet and go for it. You've already been blessed many times. May God bless you even more. I do love you, and I thank you.